morning. Good morning. Appreciate everybody being here today. Certainly, proud of our guys for a very good win. Solid performance against Stanford, a team we have a tremendous amount of respect for. And certainly a lot was learned from watching film, studying tape, making our corrections in our walkthrough, and then putting our focus solely on Washington State for this Saturday's game. With that being said, open to questions.
You guys can unmute yourselves when I call on you. James Crapia, the Oregonian.
Mario, getting to look back at Tyler's performance, just what stood out, both in good decisions. You mentioned, obviously, after the game, decisions he'd like to have back, things that he can work on heading into this week.
Sure, Tyler had a solid game. His decision-making was solid. A couple plays he'd like to have back. Thought his decisions in the run game were really good. We didn't really plan on running him that much, but he ended up running the ball a few more times, was really effective, fairly accurate, created explosive plays, which certainly helped generate points. And it's probably the best we've done offensively against Stanford in a long time. So he's growing, he's learning, he's very eager. He's a very, I would say he's a big time student of the game. He's always in there trying to get better and improve. So he takes coaching well, and we expect him to continue to progress and get better.
Eric Scopel, 247 Sports.
Mario, you didn't tip your hand at who would start at quarterback, obviously, until the game started. Was it truly a game-time decision, and when did you inform Tyler that it would be his he get the start?
Well, I don't know if it was a game-time decision, but I could honestly say that leading all the way up to game time, feel very confident in any one of our quarterbacks playing right now, meaning our first two guys. I feel that way about Anthony Brown as well. I feel he could lead us to victory and play championship football.
AJ McCord, Coin.
So, Coach, looking at Washington State, they played Oregon State, obviously, last week. After the game, Coach Rolovich said that they had 32 players missing, and he would not confirm whether they were COVID-related or not. So my question for you is, as the team that plays them next, what is your communication with Washington State, and do they have to declare something like that to you, knowing the way the disease works and that they could have people who haven't tested positive yet but could before your game?
All the medical stuff will be handled by the medical experts, and I know that they're taking every precaution humanly possible, and they'll inform us exactly of where things are at, statuses of both teams, so that we can proceed with as safe as possible play as we can agree to. So, but in terms of all the medical stuff, that's certainly something that's out of my hands, but I'm always at the beginning and end of each day, I am informed as to what the next steps are in the process.
Julian Minenson, KZI.
Mario, when it comes to preparing for Jayden de Laura, is the majority of the film this week going to be from that OSU game, or do you dive into the high school tape at all, or how do you go about preparing for him this weekend?
Well, I think the first thing that's got to be stated is phenomenal player. Does not look like a freshman at all. I mean, the big plays he generated, the plays that he kept alive, the way that he had complete command of the offense is impressive, extremely impressive. I think he's complemented by a very physical and a very talented offensive line. Certainly some Sunday players and that offensive line, they set the tone with the way they play the game. I know that just watching guys like Lucas, Ryan, Watson, those guys have been around for a little bit. Those guys are big-time players, and they play the game the way it's supposed to be played. The run game, certainly, I know they were missing their starting back, but McIntosh went in there and was hard to tackle, hard to bring down, made people miss, got chunk yardage. I mean, really explosive player. So he has a great supporting cast, and he does a great job just running the offense, having a great presence, great command of it. So we have to watch everything we possibly can on him, and we will. And certainly, it's a great opportunity and a great challenge.
Matt Preem, 247 Sports.
Mario, your offensive line, all five guys making their first career starts. Just overall impressions of that group, and individually, Ryan Walk was named to the Pro Football Focus National Team of the Week. I'm just curious, could you maybe explain what he did so well to maybe be in consideration for that?
Really proud of those guys. I think a couple things go with that. Also proud of the fact that our defense got that crew ready, along with Coach Mirabal, who, again, best offensive line coach in America. And then hats off to that group, that the amount of pride, the amount of work that they invested paid off in a really good game. Guys like Alex Forsyth, George Moore, a lot of those guys haven't started a game since 2017, maybe in high school and junior college, but just continued to gel over time, kept going against this defense, and had some really rough days against this defense in practice. And then as time went on, things just started coming together. Ryan Walk stood out, I believe, to the people of Pro Football Focus because he played an exceptional game from a technique and fundamental and assignment standpoint. Rarely missed and was very disciplined with his hat position, hand placement, finishing blocks, keeping the pocket clean, and certainly making a dent at the line of scrimmage in the run game. And the best part about it, these guys have a lot of areas where they can improve and want to improve and will improve. So it's a good first step, but still nowhere near where we need to be.
Tyson Alger, The Athletic.
The number 2 running back in your guys' offense might have less carries just based on the fact that the quarterback's taking it on more. What did you think of the way that like Travis was able to make the most of his opportunities in that game? And how does that kind of position evolve in this offense that you guys have?
Well, the ball gets spread around pretty good, and it's going to vary week to week. In terms of Travis, I can't say enough great things about him because he was explosive. He brings a very different kind of energy to the sideline, to the locker room. I mean, watch it on film. Whenever a guy makes a play, he's, almost cost us a penalty a couple times because he's sprinting down the field to go and celebrate and congratulate his teammates. He's that kind of a guy. And when he got in there, and you look at throughout the last 3 years, how many times Travis Dye has stepped up to make a big play, and, showed out again. I'm most impressed with the way he protected in the passing game, and I know that everyone loves the runs and the spin move and all that stuff. Impressive. I love it. Love to get more of that out of him, but the way he stepped up in protection and did what he was supposed to on special teams.
Ryan Thorburn, Register Guard.
Mario, what challenges does your defense have in preparing for a run and shoot offense for Washington State?
Well, they just attack you in every imaginable way. And when you think run and shoot, I think people a lot of times think it's primarily a passing offense. But if you count the RPOs that were run in their last game and the balls were actually handed off instead of thrown, and that's predicated upon the defense, right? You're throwing off of a certain defender. They were very balanced, just about 50-50. So they get downhill in the run game, they'll stretch you and then puncture the line of scrimmage. They're unbelievable at finding the soft spots. They're complemented by 4 receivers that, they are all explosive players. They all have great speed and they all have great body quickness. They all have great make you miss ability. So they find soft spots, and if those soft spots close off, they're very instinctive. They're very precise in moving to the next window and finding the next soft spot. And they're very much in tune with the quarterback. They're a very disciplined operation. They know their system very well. These guys look like they've been together running the system for a while. So they present all kinds of challenges, and they have great football players. They really do. Very impressed in watching them play their first game against Oregon State, a team who also has a very good football team. So
Kevin Wade, 247 Sports.
Hey, Coach, you were without several tight ends and then Pope on the deal. What's their status and availability this week?
Yeah, more than likely they'll be unavailable for this week as well, and we'll go with what we can roll with.
A.J. Jacobson, Rivals.
Coach, I was curious, now that you've mixed some new defenders in that defensive backfield, what did you think watching the film of them about their performance on Saturday?
I thought that we had some great moments, and we had some other ones where, we gave up some chunk plays and we got to get better at. They also have some really good receivers and made some good throws. But a couple plays we'd like to have back. And for the first time being out there and working together, there's a lot of good stuff, a lot of positive stuff to build upon. And again, our guys are really hard on themselves. So, I'm okay with being hard on them when I speak with you or speak with them, because it's the right kind of critique. It's stuff to help us get better. And they know that this game, we will and should and have to make another significant jump in our execution of the defense. But certainly from an effort standpoint, from a making plays down there in the tight red zone standpoint, there was some great play, and we need to build upon that and make it a complete game.
Haley Tennant, Duck TV Sports.
So the players of the week were just released, with Noah Sewell being the only player getting it for defense. As a true freshman in his first college game, were you at all surprised by his performance?
No, I think, and I'd probably say the same for a lot of other guys that they would have won it, but I think I've seen Noah in high school for 3 years. I was with him at a camp in Salt Lake when he carried the ball and played linebacker and just played everything on the field when he was a freshman in high school. And then I saw him in camp make play after play after play and just cause some really explosive moments, mouthpieces and other gear going all over the place upon collisions and impact. So no, not at all surprised. And I think the best part about it is that he is hungrier to get better. And you'll see a guy that every week continues to climb himself into being one of the best,
Jerry Thompson, Ducks Illustrated.
Yeah, Coach, at the point in the game where the field goal was missed, were you thinking of putting Anthony Brown in at that point? And when would you put your second team quarterback in, or at least that's what we think he is at this point? Ever put him in when the game's a little closer, just to put him in a more stressful condition?
Well, I think that's a more game by game, flow of the game will determine that. Kicking the field goal was important to us. We should have hit that field goal. We missed it. And, certainly was something that could have put the game in a much more comfortable situation. But playing Anthony isn't a comfort thing. Feel really confident with him. Felt that it was the right thing to continue playing Tyler at the time. That's what we went with. And that's the way it rolls.
James Kripia.
Mario, you guys last year, it was against Cal, but you guys really took Weaver out of the game and schemed him with the O-line, probably better than anybody ever has. Did it well with Hamilcar in the OSU game as well. I'm not asking you to give away things here, but you've done it. You put it on tape.
You're asking to give away things. You're always asking to give away things.
No. How do you try to take those lessons and apply it to facing a linebacker who was one of the most productive in the country in Jahad Woods?
Yeah. Woods is all over the field. And if you put together just a couple years of film and watch the way that he tracks the football, he understands blocking schemes. And when you have linebackers that are instinctive, can run, that have, they're reckless with their body, they throw their body around, but that understand, a double team, a back block, a puller means power, and they could just pull the trigger right now and get downhill and get people off double teams and, spill blockers, and they cause all kinds of chaos, and he's that kind of a player. I mean, he really makes them go. And I'll tell you, Sherman 41 is another guy who has played a lot. You watch him not only on special teams. I'm sure you guys saw, the play that he had this past week. But when you combine those guys, with Rogers and Marsh, and they just have a linebacking crew that knows their system really well. You could tell they feel really comfortable with it. They're a downhill operation now. They're not sitting waiting for things to happen. You always have to be aware of them, but you still have to run your system. You just have to make sure that you understand what you're playing against. You have to understand your personnel so that you're more effective with your techniques and your fundamentals as opposed to scheme.
Eric Scopel.
Mario, you rotated through at least 6 offensive linemen. You kind of moved guys around throughout the game. What was that by design? Kind of what up behind that, and is that something you think you'll continue to do next weekend and throughout the season?
I think so. Yeah, it was definitely by design. Coach Mirabal worked those guys at different spots throughout camp, and it paid off. Those guys are very versatile, and you try to figure out, okay, when we were most effective during the course of the game, what combination did what. It was too hard to find a common thread just because the play calling was different when they were in there in different spots. We like to get to 7 and 8 in terms of getting guys in there, and we feel like we're getting closer. We felt like 6 was the right number for this game. It's like having 6 starters right now. We need to get to 7 or 8.
Preem.
I feel like your linebackers fared in that game. Freshmen making calls, Drew Mathis making calls, and you had some guys like Adrian Jackson making his return. Just overall thoughts on that group?
Yeah, overall productive. Certainly room for improvement. We want to be more physical. We want to be more physical. We want to do a better job against the run. And credit to Stanford, they did a nice job up front. Their offensive line now has a few starts of working together. And they looked it. They had some good play. And we had our moments too. We had some real good ones, and I know that one run popped on us late, but I think our defense has the kind of pride where it doesn't matter who's in the game, whether it be someone who rotated in or a guy that's been there from the get-go. We want to be more physical. We want to be better with our hands. We want to be better at block destruction. The linebackers had some really bright moments, really bright moments. Fit the run game fairly well for most of the evening. Have a couple other ones that you like to take back. Were effective in pressure as well, and got guys on the ground when they had an opportunity to. So, good starting point is the best way to say it. And lots to improve upon.
Warren Williamson, Oregon Duck Football News.
Mario, you mentioned early on that you wanted to see improvement.
Warren, your mic again. We're going to move on to James, Oregonian.
Mario, Andy unveiled the dime package, which has been in the works for a while. I think it was probably in place for an opponent like Stanford with that receiving core, and also Wazoo and that passing attack, and potentially a South team who's got a pretty wide open passing attack. Your thoughts on just that package, and what does Andrew Fallu bring in that dime backer role in that package?
Well, Andrew has done a phenomenal job of working his physique into a position where he could play on the edge and play some of the virtual spots inside on the dime package. We're trying to get more speed on the field, but at the same time, you watch how many teams just like Washington State, and I think they were 5th, 6th in the country in 4th down attempts, where when teams are playing 4-down mentality football, your dime package has to be able to play the run as well. You just can't sit back there and cover. If not, they hand the ball on, run inside zone on 3rd and 9 and move the stick. So Andrew provides a lot in terms of not only the pass rush, but also being able to play the run. And then, the guys that had their turns, and some of the guys that are now getting healthy should really help beef up our depth on that dime package, which we feel was pretty effective on Saturday, and we expect to get better this week.
We got time for a couple of more. Eric Scopel.
You mentioned being down some of the tight ends. I think DJ and walk-on Cooper Schultz, only tight ends who played. We talked a lot about DJ's performance, but comfort level with Cooper and at what you've seen from him.
Cooper is tough. Cooper is smart. Cooper is young. All right. His eyes were about yay big when he got in there, and he was up to the moment. It wasn't too big for him. Really proud of him. And it just goes to show you, you think about where DJ was, several months ago. He was actually on the other side of the ball, right? And the way things worked out, it's systematically, the processes that are in place allow him with great effort, because I always, the player always deserves all the credit. And then process-wise, working with Coach Bobby Williams, getting him ready to play, he played a really good game. So, but have confidence in both those guys, as well as, we hope to get healthy sooner than later, but we'll wait and see and give you a report on that later in the week.
Last question, James.
A couple of individual matchups for your defense, Mario, that are going to be just really big in this one. Again, it's not giving away anything here. You mentioned Lucas. He's probably the best offensive tackle KT is going to go up against in a game this year. And Travell Harris, certainly his production, I would imagine Demo is probably going to draw him quite a bit. Just those individual matchups your defense is going to have.
Well, at some point in time, KT will definitely face Lucas. Lucas is an enormous human being, just tremendous, just long wingspan, right? And he's a prototypical NFL offensive tackle. He can anchor, he could slide his feet. He's got great foot and body quickness. He plays with power. He can redirect really well. He'll hurt you in the run game, running and playing with power, and he could also get out there in the screen game and do a lot of things. So, very experienced player, very patient in his pass blocking, and he uses his hands really well. It's a great challenge both in the run and the pass game, not only for Kayvon, but for the rest of our defensive line. And then Terrell's about as good as it comes. And, you know, they've moved those guys around a little bit. Some guys that played strictly inside last year are playing outside this year. And the system, you know, seems like it allows for that to be part of their package. But he's complemented by 3 to 4 other wide receivers that are very similar in terms of explosiveness, in terms of just flat out, you know, ball skills, you know, the ability to adjust to making the contested catch, to get open, just very seasoned, experienced route runners. I mean, they know where to get to, how to get there, and when they get there, what to do when the ball comes their way. So this is as good as an offense as we've seen on tape in the last couple of years.